Joining me now with reaction is 2016 presidential candidate, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator Paul, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Tucker.
As this county clerk was being led away to serve a jail sentence of indeterminate length, gay rights protesters outside chanted, "Love wins." Did love win?
You know, you're not coming through that clearly, Tucker, but what I would say about the opinion is that I think it's ridiculous to incarcerate someone for their religious beliefs. I think we can have consenting adults and have contracts without having to force people to sign and put their imprimatur on the notion of a new definition of marriage. So I think it's kind of crazy that the federal government's gotten involved in this, and I think marriage has always been a local issue and ought to still be a local issue.
I mean, even though the Supreme Court has ruled on this, and legally this clerk has an obligation to issue these licenses, I mean, I think people acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. This is all a very new development in America. Couldn't we have somebody have found another way? Hire another clerk? Maybe fire this clerk. But jail? That does seem really over the top, no?
Well, I think the thing is that if you want to persuade people of a new definition of marriage, I think handcuffing people and putting them in jail and making a martyr of someone is probably not a good way to persuade people. I also think that there are other ways around this. I don't know that the law is explicit that the clerks have to sign this. In fact, in Alabama, they've just gotten away from issuing marriage certificates, period, because they don't want to put the state imprimatur on something they disagree with. So really, a lot of people have talked about this for years. Why not just privatize marriage, have it in the churches, and people will go to a definition that they agree with, but people won't be forced to acknowledge a definition that they don't agree with.
That might be a solution. I want to go to the other news today, the loyalty oath that Donald Trump signed to the Republican Party. What do you make of the idea of loyalty oaths in the first place? You're a freedom-oriented kind of guy. Are you for loyalty oaths?
Well, you know, you join the party voluntarily, so no one's forcing you to join it. You know, when I ran for the Senate, I was not the pick of the establishment. I beat the establishment candidate pretty well, about 60-40. But I still needed the other 40% of Republicans to vote for me. So I did promise to support the nominee, whether it was me or someone else. And there is a certain amount of the team pulling together and saying, you know what? Even the least of our candidates is better than the Democrats. There will be people I will be very unhappy with. I think Donald Trump's a disaster. I think he'll hurt the country and we'll lose in a landslide. But I will still pledge to support the nominee because I think Hillary Clinton is the worst person on the planet to run the country. And I think the emails have cemented the notion that she just has bad judgment.
So even though you just described Donald Trump as, quote, a disaster, if he became the nominee, you'd be up on the stage with him, you know, good morning, Louisville, here's Donald Trump. I mean, you'd campaign with him.
Well, the thing is that there are relative degrees of enthusiasm when you support the nominee. And I won't be enthusiastic, but I will support the nominee, and I will pledge to support the nominee. But I think in the meantime, the next 6 months, I'm going to try to convince people that Donald Trump is a fake conservative. He's not really conservative at all. He's been for a single-payer health care system. He's been for higher taxes. Yeah. And really what bugs me the most is his business model has been using eminent domain to take private property from small property owners, gobble that up in order for him to make money. And I think that is something antithetical to the notion of freedom.
Well, I agree with that part. Well, if he becomes a nominee, I look forward to your unenthusiastic endorsement. Senator Paul, thanks for joining us tonight.